max to them. So, very good, good, acceptable, not sufficient. Not sufficient and acceptable, these products normally disappear from the market very quickly. Without this information of the institutions of protection of the consumers, it would be very difficult to find out which are the products which really are good. So independent media and the communication process plays a huge role in the efficiency of the social market economy. And as you see, we have 5 factors which have to look for a certain balance in terms of their interests. It's clear that every of these 5 factors have their own interests. Trade unions want higher salaries. Entrepreneurial federations are fighting for lower costs, which could mean lower salaries as well. So there's a contradiction of interests. The civil society organizations might be quite dissatisfied with some politics of the government, of the state on the national level, on the regional level, on the local level. So they might organize a certain campaign against certain attitudes. We had that, for example, in terms of protection against nuclear power stations. But you can have it on smaller things as well. And you have the famous autonomous institutions. These autonomous institutions are institutions to which the state delegates part of his sovereignty. For example, central bank. The central bank is independent from the state and has to care for the stability of the value.
Have this class because every day
No, this is
no, this class of science, we have class now in
Там на двери написано.
I'm sorry.
Okay, today you can do it, but
No, I won't do it tomorrow. Yeah, I'm sorry. These autonomous institutions, like central bank, like supervision of the bank, of the insurance system, like institutions to take care of environment protection, like, for example, the antitrust office, which is caring that there is not too much concentration in the competitive process. The state, in a certain way, would have the responsibility to take care that the system works. But the state is not in capacity to watch all this. So therefore, the state delegates certain central functions for the system to the autonomous institutions. Now, every one of these 5 factors have its own interests. And they want to realize 100% of their interests. But they know exactly that the other factors have interests as well. So, if everybody wants to get to 100% of their interest, we will have war. And in our system, in the social market economy, every factor wants to get 100% of its interest realized, but knows exactly that it can't get it. And that it has to respect the interests of the others. Let's take, for example, the relation between the entrepreneurial federations and the unions. The trade unions, for example, ask for 8% of increase of salary, knowing in a certain way that 8% is not possible. Then, in the negotiation, the entrepreneurial federation offered 2%, knowing exactly that 2% is too low. Now, the unions could strive for 8% and go to a strike and for a long strike, but knowing that then they would destroy the enterprises, and then they wouldn't get, not even the 8%, they wouldn't get anything. So, you need a certain spirit of compromise, of coming to an agreement in order to find a balance of the different interests. And the system of social market economy is a permanent game of trying to get the balance between the different interests of the state, of the trade unions, of institutions, of the autonomous institutions, and of the civil society. If you don't have this spirit of trying to come to an agreement which is acceptable for everybody, then it would be impossible to get good results out of the social market economy. So, having this general introduction to what the social market economy is, if we have now a month more or less in this classroom in order to discuss the different points, we should go through the different parts of the politics and see what is the influence of the individual achievement spirit, what is the influence of the solidarity, what is the influence of the state, where should he come into with his subsidiarity in order to design the system. Let's take out one case, for example, the fiscal system. The fiscal system is decisive for what the state gets of revenues in order to pay for the social services and the public goods. So the first question of this is, what type of tax should we have? We have to distinguish between the direct tax and the indirect tax. The direct tax is, for example, income tax. Indirect tax would be a VAT. And you have to see how much and what system would you like, for example, for the income tax. Would it be better to have an income tax as a flat rate, 25% for everybody, or 10% in your case, in modest case? Or would it be better to have a linear line of the tax, let's say going, for example, from a certain minimum income to a maximum income, and then turning around. If I have a little bit of space here, we could have it on the blackboard or the whiteboard. You know, if we have the tax here and the income here, then you can have a flat rate. So everybody who has a certain income pays this, let's say, for example, 20%. You can have a linear tax rate, tax system, or you can have a progressive system. Now, we can discuss at least for a day, if you have a flat rate, the people can say this is not social just. That, for example, the street worker who cleans the streets pay the same tax rate like a professor in the university. If you have the linear system, it comes closer to something what you could call social justice, because those who have a higher income pay a higher tax rate. And you could say, well, it would be even more social just if you have a progressive line, but obviously you have to discuss where should it stop. Should it stop at 30%, at 40%, at 50%, 60%? This is a political decision which has to be discussed, obviously, democratically in the parliament, and they have to look for an acceptable solution. The Scandinavian countries during many years had a highest income rate of 70% because they were very much social democratically oriented and had a lot of public goods to finance, and they said it's only possible to finance that if the revenues for the state are high. So we need high taxes. And then they noticed that many enterprises went to other European countries, and therefore they had